Epilogue, 1922 hours, April 16th, 2539, military calendar, Trome system, planet boundary, high equatorial orbit, Covenant battlecruiser Purity of Spirit. The shadowy figure skulked through the engineering compartments near the pinch fusion reactor powering the Covenant vessel. For several cycles, the Huragok known as Slight Drift had been hard at work repairing the myriad components necessary to keep the ship's propulsion active. Currently working on repairing a plasma coil that was misaligned. The creature, a mix between a jellyfish and a balloon with its gas-filled sacs comprising its body, puffed and wheezed as it floated from one hard point to the next and welded them back in place. He was never told anything except fix this or check on that, since the conglomeration of alien species known as the Covenant discovered him tending to Forerunner technology on a shield world many units ago. Since then, the Covenant had ordered him around endlessly to suit their needs. He didn't mind, though. He just loved toying with technology. Every Huragok had an insatiable desire to acquire any technology they could get their hands on. Sanghili, Kigyar, Forerunner, it didn't matter. He could manipulate almost anything. The creature stopped tending to the plasma coil when he saw the bipedal machine-like creature pick its way carefully through the systems of the ship's engineering deck. He finished realigning the coil and began to drift warily toward the visitor. He noticed the thing place a metallic spherical object between two power plants, then started to shed its skin. Even from a distance, Slight Drift could see it was an organic animal beneath what looked to be combat armor. It didn't take a genius like a Huragok to tell that the creature was badly injured, evident by the holes in its armor as well as the blood-spattered ashy skin revealed beneath. He wondered if this was the same species that had been at war with his Covenant overlords, and if this thing had anything to do with the damage caused to the ship he had called home for so long. Drift remained hidden behind a buried storage container and observed the alien as it attempted to repair itself and its armor. Before he could consider engaging with it, however, it took off down a hallway. After several units had passed, Drift determined that the creature would not be returning. He remembered the object it had hid when it arrived, and he floated to the pair of massive columns to poke a pair of eel-like tentacles into the gap. He expelled some excess gas from the fleshy pouches that comprised his body, and squeezed through the space to discover the device which now captivated his attention. He could not tell what the device was, but he could see that it was approximately half a meter in length, and half that in height with rounded ends. A digital readout displayed moving glyphs with 4 characters in all. Unable to determine their meaning, he picked up the object and moved it to a nearby workstation. Slight Drift raised a pair of tentacles as cilia split from the tips and began prodding the device in front of his 6 eyes. Another pair of tentacles held it in place as the ship rocked slightly. In no time, the Huragok found a seam to exploit and began to work it loose. The hair-like cilia worked their way into the object and eventually pried the front panel off, sending the digital display crashing to the floor. Wires and conduits filled the tiny space beyond, and he began to work out the finer details of how the device operated. Several units later, the engineer discovered that what the alien creature had left on board was in fact a bomb. He began to panic at the implications of the discovery, fearing retribution from his Covenant masters, or worse, detonating the bomb. Slight Drift hastily disassembled the rest of the machine to ensure it would not detonate. His tentacles and cilia danced flawlessly around more wires, trigger devices, and circuitry until at last it deactivated and seemed to be inert. As soon as it was done disassembling the bomb, a loud crash broke his concentration. He carefully set it down and, with 2 of its 6 eyes, turned to see what the commotion was. It seemed the ship had begun accelerating once again to a destination he would never know. The engineering deck was his home, his responsibility to maintain, and there he remained, so he was never privy to their movements. The sudden change in velocity had knocked a coolant tank out of position and caused it to crash onto the deck below. A sickly green pool of freezing coolant began to collect underneath. He glanced back to the alien device still in its clutches, then back to the compromised cooling tank. Without so much of a second thought, he stripped of any useful components and continued the tireless duty of repairing and maintaining the ship.